Alright, so Record of Ragnarok chapter 93 and Apocalypse of the Gods chapter number 4. We're going to talk about both previews for both chapters, and I'll talk about what I think is coming next month. So let's start off with Apocalypse of the Gods. Apocalypse of the Gods preview states, Kukulin woke up, but it is different this time. The legendary and famous special talent is about to explode. I think everybody had come to the consensus that Ku was obviously not done at the end of last chapter. That's basically what's explicitly told to us. So he's going to get back up. I talked about at the end of my video that there is lore and myths surrounding his berserker state. That could be what they're talking about when they say different. The legendary and famous special talent, I think that we are going to see the reason why Ku is truly an outer god, why he's one of these unstoppable gods, and why he is feared as a berserker. A lot of you guys in the comments have been waiting for the emergence of Ku's famous weapon, Gay Bolg. That also could be imminent. A lot of people think that it's inside the log that he's carrying. It also could just transform. The log itself could be the weapon, and it just transforms itself into a spear. Kind of goes along with this guy's comment where he says, one of the legendary battles had Ku throw the spear into an armored opponent. It opens up inside the opponent to spread thorns throughout the body, and the only way to get the spear out is to cut it out of the body. So something like that could happen. Obviously, we see the thorns already spreading. The thorns actually themselves were able to move. If Ku is able to stab into Ra, pierce his armor with this log, with this Gay Bolg, that could spell the end, as it could potentially root itself into Ra's body. One thing I also wanted to mention though was this comment right here was hilarious, because I was thinking the same thing. Ra's suit of armor, it reminds me of the winged dragon of Ra from Yu-Gi-Oh, which I loved growing up. I thought that was cool, but a lot of people also think that Ra looks very similar to Kenao Agito from Kengan Ashura Kengan Omega, and I recently just finished and read that series. Maybe I'll actually cover it on the channel. Let me know in the comments below if you guys would want to see me cover Kengan, because I might start covering that weekly as well. But if you look at these two images, like, he really does look very similar to him. I would say that Ra is just like a skinnier version of Kenao. Kenao's a pretty beefy dude. I wonder if there was some inspiration taken. As I was reading through Kengan, I noticed that there seemed to be some things that could have been inspired. So I wonder if there's a connection between the two authors. Not sure. Somebody in the comments could let me know. But another thing I've been thinking about ever since this chapter dropped was that this reminds me of Okoye versus Cosmo in the Annihilation tournament. In that fight, Okoye had multiple chances where he could have just finished the fight, but instead he decided that he was going to prove a point and execute justice and make it as painful as possible. He wanted Cosmo to suffer. It was also a discrepancy between Okoye having full bloodlust and killing intent, and this was something that Cosmo hadn't really experienced before, and it made him a better fighter as a result, and it turned him into a demon mid-battle. I see a lot of the same things from Ra and Ku, where Ra came in here with a bad attitude, something to prove, and it's almost like he's executing his own justice, that it's preposterous that a demigod like this would even step to him. And now he's trying to flex, show the other gods, hey, look, this is divine power. I'm whooping this kid's ass. Zeus, this will be you one day. Don't cheer me on. And he just continues to keep going. I guess you could say it doesn't seem like he's really gone for a killing blow. He's gone for a litany of shots. It's a little bit different though, because like Ra just thinks that Ku's not going to get back up or whatever the case. But I see a lot of similarities in it, and it allowed for a chance for Cosmo to come back. In this fight, I kind of see something similar going on with Ra, and that might have been the catalyst for his defeat, because now Ku is still alive. He hasn't followed up what he could follow up to finish the job potentially, and now he's put his focus elsewhere. He doesn't think Ku's on his level, and that's going to come back to bite him, because he wasn't worried about the threat that was in front of him. He's worried about all the other outside noise. At this point, it does seem like Ku is at the very least set up for a vicious get back. I think everybody thinks that he's definitely going to get his licks in on Ra at this point. And I think most people think that he's actually going to win this fight, especially given that a lot of people think that these fights are going to be shorter. I was one of the people that thought that these fights are going to be shorter than the Ragnarok fights, because if theoretically they did have a goal in mind to make this person the 14th fighter at the end of the tournament, they would want to get this tournament all finished by the time we got to the last fight in Record of Ragnarok. So that means that these fights would have to be kind of expedited. And even if they didn't go that route, the premise of this tournament was to be the 13th spot. Obviously, we know Zeus ends up taking the spot, but you'd still want that to kind of get resolved before the tournament of Ragnarok ends, in my opinion. But looking at the bracket for this tournament, that's going to be a very tall task. You got 15 matches you got to get through in the time that Ragnarok's going to go through the tail end of round 10, 11, 12, 13, and potentially 14. So it's not going to match up that way unless these fights are way quicker. If that's the case, and this isn't going to be extended, Ku could come back and just straight up win with whatever his power up is. It also could be a bait and switch where Ra could still defeat the power up of Ku. I think that would also be really cool. So I'm super invested, super interested in how this is going to go, because this sets the tone for the rest of the series. And I've really enjoyed this first fight, and guess who's up next? Sun Wukong, and I know a lot of people are really looking forward to that, me included. So now let's move over to Record of Ragnarok. Again, it's kind of an obvious preview, but Okita rises again, now with everything at stake, and the long and deadly battle is finally in its final moment. So I'm not going to go out and say that means that it's going to be the final chapter, because we had that whole debacle last month with people saying that this month was going to be the final chapter. But that does kind of lead us to believe that, it very well could be. If not, I think we all are in agreement that if it's not next chapter, it'll be 2 more, because we've got both backstories done at this point. We're in the final stages. Both are wounded. They're both at their peak. Seems like things are going to end. And I think this fight is going to be one that people are going to appreciate more looking back on it. There's a thing that goes on in manga where whenever you're reading something live, it's much harder to build the same kind of hype that you would have if you were able to just binge it. Because I personally think this has been a pretty good fight. But I see a lot of people calling this fight boring and thinking that they want it to end because everybody wants to get to the next big thing. Everybody's obviously excited to see who's going to be the fighters in round 11. But I think that it's important to understand that, hey, when you're reading things live and it's a monthly manga, you have to just understand that not every chapter can be elite. So there's going to be a month where you just get a backstory chapter. There's going to be a month where you gotta let the action take a back seat. That's something that happens, and it's something that's going to continue to happen in the series going forward. I personally have enjoyed the fight for the most part, and I think that as long as they stick the landing to the end of this fight, it could go down as one of the best. But I am very interested to see how Susanoo is now going to fight with half his foot, see if that plagues his mobility, see if that weakens his attacks. I also want to see if he has anything more in store himself as far as a surprise, as far as an ultimate technique that would really shake things up. Also, we talked about this in the breakdown, but with Onigo kind of taking the role of the Valkyrie this round, it seems that's going to make things even more interesting going forward for the Valkyries for other fighters. Now, I still think it's weird, no matter what, that there's not a Valkyrie, because they talked about, 13 fighters, 13 matches, but I don't know. Some people have said that they would be upset if the Valkyrie does get revealed this late in the game, because that could potentially even be another power-up that Okita could get. So maybe it's a pendulum where it's like Okita gets the upper hand, Susanoo brings down ultimate technique, oh, now he's got his Valkyrie. And a lot of people wouldn't like that, and I kind of agree with that, because I feel like you got to set up the Valkyrie beforehand, like where is she when he's going through all these problems. So we'll have to let it cook, we'll have to let it play out. But I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts on all this. Wanted to bring this information to you. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.